gentlemen, once again, welcome to the Muslim News Awards for Excellence 2010. This year's awards are actually more special than most.
Why is that, Zora? Is it because the coolest people in the world are hosting it? Or is it the jokes are going to be cheesier than the cheese aisle at Tesco?
Well, cheesy as that was, Yasser, no, it's because this is the 10th anniversary of the Muslim News Awards. The Muslim News has been recognizing unsung heroes for a whole decade.
That's 9 and 10 whole years. Wow, 10 years ago, we didn't have Facebook. There was definitely no X Factor. I think the country was definitely not bankrupt.
That's true, but also your haircut was fashionable 10 years ago.
That's a bit harsh, ladies and gentlemen, isn't that? A bit harsh. I think I'll be calling the anti-bullying hotline later on, if they've got availability.
I think they've got enough on their plates already. So, swiftly moving on, tonight we're here to recognize those special people who encapsulate community spirit and excellence, both in the British Muslim community and the wider community. The winners tonight will be receiving a coveted astrolabe, which Yasser will shortly be very elegantly modeling. This tool was developed in the medieval Islamic world, and it was used for astronomy, navigation, and timekeeping in those times when Muslims actually turned up on time sometimes.
Thank you, Isra. Yes, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Silk Roads tonight. They'll be presenting their play, The Lady and the Five Suitors, which is a story from the 1001 Nights. This will be retold by the BAFTA-nominated Aliyah El-Zugbi, and she'll be accompanied by Khalid Hakim and Paul Chinur. So they've adapted it especially for you guys tonight with a mischievous twist, so look out for that. So without further ado, let me welcome Silk Roads to the stage. Give them a round of applause.
قديم الزمان في الليالي السعيدة والأيام الملاح. In the ancient city of Basra, there was a handsome young man who was deeply in love with his neighbor's daughter. He begged and pleaded with her every day to be his wife, offering her all the riches on the earth and all the good things in life, until finally she accepted. Their wedding night was a memorable and grand one, and the celebrations were outrageous. And when that was over, the young husband took his wife to their bridal suite, and as soon as they stepped in, he said, "Habibti, I have a long journey I must go on." He was a small-time trader, you see, and he was to sail over the whimsical waters of the Red Sea and go over the dangerous sand dunes of the Sahara Desert all the way to North Africa, for there was a trade deal to strike there, and if successful, it would whisk them out of their poverty into riches. And one more thing, Habibti, I must leave tomorrow. She begged and she pleaded with him all through the night as he packed his sack. But with the first crack of light, he planted a kiss on her forehead, reiterated his promise that he would return, and his silhouette disappeared into the orange skyline. A year passed, and the husband did not return. And the poor wife, restless with anxiety, decided to follow him on the trail that she knew he had taken. So she went down and took the next caravan to the city of Baghdad. And she traveled for 3 days and 3 nights. And once in the majestic city, she went and she asked slave and master, child and adult, as to the whereabouts of her husband, until she was told that he had been imprisoned for quarreling with a man of a high position in the order of the kingdom. she rushed to the Baghdad prison. And over there, she was taken down to the prison cells, and she was made to walk through seas of the criminals and the wrongly accused, until she spotted a face that looked so familiar, but with bloodshot eyes and sunken cheeks and a tired, old, frail body. The two embraced through the prison bars, but only momentarily, before the guards tore her away from him, dragging her up the stairs, kicking and screaming, and threw her outside the prison gates. Now, there was a guard who had witnessed this tragic incident, and taking pity on the poor woman, he told her to go to the chief officer. If she could get a letter from him, her husband would surely be freed. With renewed energy, the young bride went straight to the chief officer's house, and with a fury of a caged animal, she argued for her husband's case, saying that he was wrongly accused and unfairly imprisoned. And those black eyes, those big black pearls that were her eyes, even without the trace of kohl, shaped on top with those shapely, thick, dark eyebrows, and this youthful passion stirred the desire of the chief officer, and he agreed to give her the letter, but only if she would spend the night with him. The young woman was alarmed at this indecent proposal, and out she went. She left his house, and she went out into the streets, and she thought to herself, where can I go? Where can I go next to cease justice? The vizier. The vizier is said to be a kind and generous and virtuous man. No other person will bring me justice. And out she ran to the vizier's house. And once at the door, she knocked on the door. And once the door was opened, she dropped to her knees. And she sobbed, and she cried, and she wept, and through that the vizier understood that something had happened to her husband. He had been wrongly done. He rushed to raise this poor young woman off her knees, and as he raised her, he saw those poetic waves that her abaya drew on her body, and he saw this shivering, quivering of the abaya on her passionate body, and he promised that he would give her the letter, but only if she agreed to be his wife. She left. Out into the streets, and she went running from street to street to street to street, and stopped in front of the Malik's house. The Malik, king of the land, whose word was worth more than anyone else's. She walked in, through the marble courts into his diwan, and there she stood, bowed her head down, waiting for permission to speak, bowing in submission. And the Malik, the king, saw this exquisite beauty. And before even asking her for the reason of her presence, he ordered his guards to capture her and take her into his harem. The guards encircled the poor woman, and they enclosed upon her, encroaching upon her. But swiftly she ducked through them, and she ran out of the palace, ducking into this narrow alleyway and into that crowded marketplace until she had lost the guards.